performs the ziyarah, but one who looks into the face of another who's performed the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Allahu Akbar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really designed this human being and the place where he was killed and the circumstances that surrounded him to be the capital, the spiritual capital of the universe. We're told, you know the famous slogan, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala. That's actually not a tradition, but it makes sense. It makes sense because on every single religious occasion we're instructed to recite the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Thursday nights recite the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Friday recite the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Arafah, go visit Imam al-Hussein. In fact, it's more recommended to be there than to be in the desert of Arafat. The Eidain recite the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Laylatul Qadr recite the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein. Come on, what's going on here? Why Imam al-Hussein? I mean, this occasion has nothing to do with Imam al-Hussein. Oh yes, it does. Because had it not been for Imam al-Hussein, we would not mark this occasion. We would not remember this event. We would not worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So every day is Karbala. And also, we have traditions that if you get to visit Imam al-Hussein, do so. If you can't, you're in the middle of the desert, you want to visit Imam al-Hussein, one tradition states, take a stick, draw a little square in the sand, then stand in front of it, pretend that is the cage of Imam al-Hussein and perform the ziyarah. Every land is Karbala. And like I said, he doesn't need us. How could we ever outdo the Prophet of Islam when he said, إِنَّهُ لَمَكْتُوبٌ عَلَى سَاقِ الْعَرْشِ. The pillar of the throne, the divine throne of the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has an inscription. What does the inscription say? إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنِ مِصْبَاحُ هُدًى وَسَفِينَةُ نَجَاةٍ. Hussein is verily a lantern of guidance and an ark of salvation. I mean, what greater honor can you give someone than that? Why is it inscribed on the pillar of the throne of Allah Almighty? Allah doesn't have a physical throne on which He sits. The throne of Allah is a reference to God's knowledge and to God's power. In other words, the knowledge of God is there to make sure that the remembrance of Imam al-Hussein never fades away. And the power of God is there to make sure that Imam al-Hussein is the victor at all times and will never be defeated. إِنَّ الْحُسَيْنِ مِصْبَاحُ هُدًى وَسَفِينَةُ نَجَاةٍ. The Prophet's relationship with Imam al-Hussein, this is a prophetic narration, was a very special one indeed. In fact, traditions tell us that on one occasion the Prophet was walking past the house of Fatima al-Zahra when suddenly he overheard Imam al-Hussein crying. He stopped. He said, Ya Fatima askiti, O Fatima, please give him some comfort. Attend to him. أَلَا تَدْرِينَ أَنَّ بُكَاءَهُ يُؤْذِينِي. Don't you know that when I hear him cry, it hurts me to see my son Hussein cry? It really hurts me, O Fatima. Please do something. On another occasion, the tradition states that the Prophet was praying with the companions in the mosque. Suddenly, the companions noticed that the Prophet had accelerated the pace of a salah to the point where they thought that there was an impending war about to take place, or an army of enemies had approached, or that the angel of God had descended in order to deliver an urgent message of some sort. I mean, the Prophet is praying so fast, we can't catch up with him. The Prophet finishes his prayer. The Prophet then looks at the companions and offers an explanation. He says, I prayed very fast because I noticed Imam al-Hussein was crying. And his mother, my daughter Fatima, is joining me in my prayer. So I wanted to finish quickly so that she could go and hasten towards her son and attend to him so that he would stop crying. Ya Rasulullah, where were you on the day of Ashura? The tradition states that the Prophet was on his deathbed. He's about to depart this world. Imagine Rasulullah, who knows what the future holds, who knows what is going to take place. How could he hold all that pain inside him? Look at the people who are going to cause all that pain and misery to his daughter and to his household and not be able to deter them. That's probably why the Prophet kept saying that no one has endured more pain than I have. The Prophet would look in the face of Imam Ali, and his eyes would become red. But he'd suppress the emotions. I mean, obviously, they're all distressed, they're all crying. He's about to depart this world. The Prophet doesn't want to cause more, he doesn't want to cause, an insult to the injury. He doesn't want to cause them more depression and more grief. So he looks at Imam Ali. He remembers what is going to take place to him when his beard will be filled with the blood that gushes out of his head. But his eyes, as a consequence of him suppressing those emotions, they become red. Then he looks in the face of his daughter Fatima, and the eyes are filled with tears. He remembers the day when she will be attacked and she will be squashed between the wall and the door. His eyes fill up with tears. He then looks at Imam al-Hasan, and he simply can't hold his tears anymore. He begins to weep and cry. Then he looks at Imam al-Hussein, and he falls unconscious. And then he'd wake up. Traditions tell us he'd regain consciousness and call out, Mali wali Yazid, Mali wali Yazid. Oh Yazid, what have I done to you? Why are you going to do the things that you will do to my grandson Hussein? What have I done to you? What have I done to your ancestors and to your household? That is Rasulullah. Which is why that relationship was reciprocated towards the Prophet. Whenever the Imams, listen carefully, whenever the Imams felt overwhelmed with grief and distress and pain, during their darkest moments, the first person they went to was the Prophet himself in his grave. The first person they complained to was Rasulullah himself, the commander of the faithful, when he buried his daughter. Fatima Zahra herself, it's a famous story. She would, after the departure of her father Rasulullah, when she wanted to cry, but the people of that city said that were too distracted with her cries, she would go where? She'd have no refuge but the grave of Rasulullah. She would go there, sit down, take the soil, smell it, and say, ماذا على من شم تربة أحمد أن لا يشم مدى الزمان غواليا صبت علي مصائب لو أنها صبت على الأيام صرنا لياليا. Oh Father, I have seen so much pain, I have seen so much darkness, that if that pain had been poured on daytime, they would become nighttime. Ya Rasulullah. That is Fatima Zahra, the commander of the faithful also. In his darkest moments, he would resort to the Prophet. When he buried his beloved wife, Fatima Zahra, he looked at the shrine of Rasulullah. He said, Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah, wa ala ibnatika an-nazilati bijiwarik, wa as-sari'ati al-lihaq bik. Oh Rasulullah, peace be upon you, and upon your daughter who has hastily joined you. I don't know why. It only took her 40 days to join you, Ya Rasulullah. She's only 18 years old. She's at the very peak of her youth, Ya Rasulullah. And then he said, Ya Rasulullah, قَلَّ عَنْ صَفِيَّتِكَ صَبْرِي وَعَزَّ عَنْهَا تَجَلُّدِي. I have no more patience to endure, Ya Rasulullah. I can't take this anymore. فَأَحْفِهَا السُّؤَالِ وَاسْتَخْبِرْهَا الْحَالِ. Oh Rasulullah, ask her what took place after your death. Ask her about what they did to her, because she would never tell me what they did to her, Ya Rasulullah. وَأَحْفِهَا السُّؤَالِ. Insist until she tells you that they broke her ribs, that they crushed her between the wall and the door, that they bruised her body, Ya Rasulullah. So they would always resort to the Prophet of Islam. Also, Imam al-Hasan, traditions tell us that he went and he rubbed his chest 7 times on 7 different occasions